The electoral donations reforms, turning now to your job as Special Minister of State, and these electoral donations reforms you're proposing, it appears like they'll get the support of the opposition in the Senate this week. I understand there's just a couple of sticking points. It involves a cap of $20,000 per donor to each recipient and a cap on campaign spending of each electorate of $800,000. Now, the accusation from the crossbench is that this will lead to a big advantage for the major parties. Your argument, I suspect, would be it will take the likes of Simon Holmes at court and Clive Palmer out of the picture a bit, I guess.
I won't take them out of the picture, Andrew. What it will do, it will create a level playing field for the first time in Australian politics. The billionaires say that there should be no cap on spending, and they should be able to spend as much money as they like on elections. My argument is that all Australians should be able to participate in the electoral process. You shouldn't have to be sponsored by a billionaire in order to have a chance of getting into the Australian Parliament. So what these changes do is they treat everybody equally. Everybody is going to be subject to the caps that you mentioned, the $20,000 cap in terms of donation, and the $800,000 cap in terms of spending on electoral seats. I think if you can't get your message across after spending $800,000, then maybe you shouldn't be in politics, Andrew. I think these are sensible reforms. I think they're... No, it's true. It's true. I mean, ordinary people like you and me, Andrew, have to be able to participate in the electoral process. It's not fair that the only people who get to win seats in the elections are those that are anointed by the billionaires. And so this is a sensible reform, and it not only impacts, of course, on the billionaires, but it sets a level playing field for everybody. Everybody knows. Okay, so
when you talk about people funding by the billionaires, let's call a shovel a spade here. You are talking about the Teal independents, who actually keep your Liberal, well, apart from Clive Palmer, and they actually keep your Liberal rivals at bay. So that's kind of interesting. But there's no doubt they're affected by this, aren't they?
Well, everybody will be subject to these new rules. It's been decades since we've had significant electoral reform like this. The time has come to get this legislation through, and I'm hoping that I'll have broad support for the legislation when it comes on in the Senate this coming week. But the fact of the matter is, everybody is treated equally. Nobody has an advantage under these new rules, and that's the significant change for the first time in our electoral system.
All right, well, there was a report on the weekend that you met Simon Holmes at court, and he complained to you that your reforms would lock out anyone but the major parties, and you were said to have remarked to a small group later, "That's the effing point." Is that story true, and what happened at your meeting with Holmes at court, if there was one?
Look, I never use language like that, Andrew. You know me. Yeah. I'm not that sort of person. And that's not the language I use. And when that comment was put to us, we comprehensively rejected it. Unfortunately, that doesn't appear to have appeared in the story. Yes, I've met Simon Holmes at court on a number of occasions, and I meet anybody who wants to talk about sensible reform of our electoral system. And I say the same thing as I'm saying to you now, as I've said to Simon Holmes at court. We need to have a level playing field. It simply can't be that if you're really rich or your backers are really rich, that you can participate in the Australian electoral system.
And did he say to you, I just want to get on this point because this is the more important point out of this. Did he say to you, well, that will massively advantage the major parties? And if he did, what was your response to that?
Look, he put his point of view as he always does, very forcefully. But what I said to him is what I'm saying to you now and what I've said all the way along. I say this publicly and privately. I don't have one argument for private conversations and another argument for public conversations. What we're trying to do here, Andrew, is put downward pressure on the cost of Australian elections. We don't want to go down the track of the American system, where you spend billions and billions and billions of dollars on election. There has to be a cap. There has to be a maximum. I've consulted widely, not just with Simon Holmes at court, but with the Teals, with the Independents, with Mr. Pocock. We've even reached out to Clive Palmer. We will talk with anybody who is interested in having a sensible discussion about Australian electoral reform. But you know, this is 2.5 years in the making, this legislation. This hasn't come out of nowhere. It's come out of two inquiries by the J-Scam committee. It's the policy that the Labor Party took to the last election, and I'm hoping that the majority of the Senate will see that this is an overdue reform. We'll have one chance to do this, Andrew, and that's in the next week. And by the end of that week, I want to see this significant reform to the Australian electoral system.
Do you believe the Teals operate like a political party or operate like independents?
Oh, look, I'm not going to give running commentary on my opponents. What I do say to the Teals is that they've got to rise above self-interest. This is a reform that is a much-needed reform in the Australian system. If we want to avoid going down the track of the American system, then we have one opportunity to do that, and that's in the next 5 days. So I'd say to the Teals and anybody else who's interested in this debate, put self-interest aside. Ask yourself, what is the best for the Australian electoral system? And I believe the reforms that I've introduced achieve that aim. They're the best that we can do.
What role, Don Farrell, what role do you think Simon Holmes at court, other than donor, plays for the Teals?
Oh, look, I'm not going to get into the inside workings of other political parties. I have enough trouble understanding how the Labor Party works from time to time,
I don't think you have a trouble with that, Don Farrell.
So I'll leave to commentators, fine commentators like yourself, to explain the other political parties.
All right.
But what I say to all of the players in the political process, get on board. This is really good reform. Come on and support it.